Nigeria needs serious reforms to engender growth, says Nigeria Economic Summit Group. Nigeria wins PNID case in UK court just as federal government says will no longer be held hostage by economic conspiracies. Oil prices rebound on Israel-Hamas war uncertainty plus Asian market comes out from Japan, Australia and South Korea. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Musa Abubakar, your guide. Well, let's bring you up to speed with business development. The Federal Executive Council has approved a draft policy for the solid minerals development sector to sanitize and allow adoption and deployment of technology for an improved security in the mining communities. State House correspondent Musbauda Muha reports that this is one of the approvals coming from Council's meeting last Monday.
Illegal mining is very pervasive, especially in the rural areas. And we've also traced incidents of banditry to the handiwork of illegal miners, especially foreign illegal miners. Some notorious foreigners who come to our nation sponsor banditry in the local areas with a view to driving away the local population and then moving in to start exploration and extracting our minerals. Gives us in the ministry the teeth that we've wanted to be able to now act with precision on all of those things that we have mapped out. Measures on security. You're also quite aware of illegal mining activities all over the country by both high and low. The so-called itinerant miners who just pick gold, lithium anywhere without licenses. These are so-called illegal miners. But those are the low class. We have the high class also involved in this game. So we are rejigging the security architecture involving an inter-security agency structure to ensure that we combat this menace.
Nigeria has won its case against Process and Industrial Development (PNID) Limited in London court after 5 years of litigation. Anthony Forson reports.
The judgment came after 5 years, which has finally been settled to the advantage of Nigeria. The London court quashed the 11 billion arbitration award issued in favor of PNID. The ruling, delivered by Justice Robin Knowles of the Commercial Courts of England and Wales, upheld Nigeria's prayers on the grounds that the ill-fated gas processing contract was obtained by fraud. The Business and Property Court in London delivered the judgment in the case between the Federal Government of Nigeria and Process and Industrial Development (PNID) Limited. The federal government had initiated the development of tankers for the transportation of crude oil through the creeks of the Niger Delta, following the inability to fix the often vandalized pipelines in the region. However, PNID had agreed with Nigeria in 2010 to build a gas processing plant in Calabar for the purpose. It failed and turned round to sue Nigeria, claiming that the contract failed because the Nigerian government did not fulfill its end of the bargain, saying Nigeria breached the terms of the contract and took a legal recourse and secured an arbitral award against Nigeria. On the 31st of January 2017, a tribunal ruled that Nigeria should pay PNID $6.6 billion as damages, as well as pre- and post-judgment interest at 7%. Nigeria applied for an extension of time and relief from sanctions, which was granted by Ross Cranston, Judge of the Business and Property Court of England and Wales, in September 2020, thereby returning the case to arbitration. With that development, Nigeria alleged that the gas deal was a scam conceived to defraud the country. Lawyers representing the federal government told the court that P&ID officials paid bribes to secure the contract. But P&ID denied the allegation and accused the Nigerian government of false allegations and wild conspiracy theories. In a March trial at the court, Nigeria alleged that the contract was secured through dishonest means that included bribery and perjury, and that the arbitration award, which has risen to $11 billion because of its interest, should be quashed. And it has been quashed. Nigeria stands tall in the case.
And while President Bola Tinubu applauds judgment rendered by Judge Robin Knowles of the Business and Property Court in London, awarding a landmark victory to the federal government of Nigeria over a firm known as Process and Industrial Development Limited, following Judge Knowles' dismissal of the $11.5 billion value of the award plus accumulated interest previously won by P&ID over a failed 2010 deal to allegedly build a gas processing plant on the grounds that the award was obtained by fraud. President Tinubu commends the UK court for prioritizing the merits of the case above all other considerations. This landmark judgment proves conclusively that nation states will no longer be held hostage by economic conspiracies between private firms and solitary corrupt officials who conspire to extort and endabt the very nations they swear to defend and protect. Today's victory, as you said, is not for Nigeria alone. It is a victory for our long-exploited continent and for the developing world rather, at large, which has for too long been on the receiving end of unjust economic malpractice and overt exploitation. Nigeria is appreciative of the tremendous efforts of the defense team and acknowledges the role of Federal Ministry of Justice and the Office of the Attorney General in the process of defending Nigeria's interests in this case, the President stated. Now, President Bola Tinubu has assured that his team is already working on the workability of the consumer credit facility promised by his administration to discourage corruption, particularly in the civil service. The President was at the 29th edition of the National Economic Summit holding in Abuja. State House correspondent Musbat Wahab reports that the theme of the summit is pathways to sustainable economic transformation and inclusion.
We have all felt the pain of these reforms. Soon, we shall begin to reap the rewards. I believe in the definition of our profession that I inherit the asset and liability of my predecessor. The framework has been put in place to ensure that these obligations are met in due course. My government is not blind to the challenges several of you are facing in the financial markets. I can only allay these concerns by revealing that we have a good line of sight for the additional foreign exchange liquidity that is required to restore market confidence. And we are going to do that.
With more than 100 million of us being multidimensionally poor, there are potentially more risks of stagnation and distress if a low growth and low investment era persists. We know a multi-trillion-dollar economy is viable within a decade of serious reforms, consistent economic action, and deliberate institutional.
The establishment of N.S. Shonakan Center for Legislative Reforms and Economic Development is viewed by stakeholders as a way of strengthening the enactment of laws that will enhance the implementation of economic reforms being championed by the state assemblies, Business Environment Roundtable, the National Judicial Institute, and the Judicial Capacity Initiative.
To engage, deliberate, and act on a framework that will improve our business environment through a review of relevant legislations and provisions of the Constitution. NASBA has played a massive role in critical legislation like the Company and Allied Matters Act 2020, the Petroleum Industry Act, the Arbitration and Mediation Act, and the Seed Fertilizer Act, amongst others.
With the 29th edition of the Nigerian Economic Summit in Abuja, various interests from the public and private sector share their views on ways of achieving clearer pathways to economic transformation and prosperity of Nigeria.
In order to provide the platform for the priority areas, the first thing that is happening is economic stabilization, focusing on, first of all, the fiscal side, revenues from various sources, the traditional sources, oil, but also taxation and so forth. Then on the monetary side, Mr. President is somebody that believes in rule of law, and that includes respecting the autonomy of the central bank, both in the letter and in the spirit. However, it is one government, and at the end of the day, foreign exchange belongs first and foremost to the federal government, not to the central bank, so I can speak on that. And finally, in terms of stabilization, the other area is getting a hang of the fiscal deficit, making sure that the deficit is reduced, making sure that the deficit is funded in a conventional way, and that means dealing with ways and means. Ways and means is essentially outside the law, and it is not a sustainable way to be funding the federal budget. So those are the areas in which the government has a plan that is coherent and that will provide the basis for investment and growth.
So the 8-point agenda that have been priority areas are consistent with our long-term Agenda 2050. And in any case, in consultation with the private sector, as part of what is being done today, we will also examine the National Development Plan for 2021 to 2025 to ensure that it reflects both the renewed hope agenda, the policy advisory committees we set in, and our national aspiration. What it shows history, our history around the world have shown that countries can achieve the kind of growth we are praying, we are hoping for. So it's not new. And I think with the determination that one is seeing around the $1 trillion economy is possible.
The 8-point agenda in terms of prioritization, food security is key to the functions of the ministry. And of course, we have economic growth and job creation. And we also have poverty eradication and inclusivity. Now, like you rightly said, food is key. And I'm sure from morning to now, most people probably here must have had their breakfast. And if they've not had their breakfast, they will have been thinking of food in the next couple of minutes or hours. So food is key. Now, for us in the ministry, the agricultural sector is facing very serious challenges. And I think the first challenge that we all know is the fact that we are having low productivity in terms of most of our food security crops. A situation where farmers and some other clients are getting double what our farmers are getting here is something we consider unacceptable. Now, the second challenge is the fact that we have flooding. The impact of climate change, that we all know desertification from the north, flooding in the middle and coastal erosion in the south, which the president aptly put when he attended the UN General Assembly. Now, for us in the ministry, we realize there is serious inflation, food inflation. The cost of food has gone up, perhaps because of the initial shock of the removal of fuel subsidy are not in place. So what we have done is the next opportunity available to us. The rainy season is almost gone, but the dry season, for which Nigeria has very tremendous potentials on, we decide we have to focus on it. And I'm happy to say that for the dry season program, we are starting with wheat, rice, rice, and then soybean and vegetables. That is various tomatoes and all the other vegetables. Now, what we realize is that for the farmer, what are their challenges? Their key challenges usually is the input. We realize agriculture is done on land. So no more paper agriculture, no more computer-based agriculture. We want to get down to where the farmers are. The Nigerian farmer is passionate about his farming. They have the willingness to do the farming. They are ready to do the farming. What is the problem? All they need is input that should get to them at the time they need it. And I think somehow we have decided in some of the programs that have happened in the past, we've not really been able to get a situation where we are able to get farmers to get this input when and how they want it.
In our role as coordinating the economy, we do have a meeting where we sit down with the core of the economy, including the Governor of Central Bank, Minister of Power, Minister of Trade, Minister of Agriculture, and so on and so forth. And so we meet regularly, try and make sure that objectives are aligned, we track priorities, and we look at the sequencing of the various actions. So that coordination is going on. In terms of monetary fiscal policy, the 43 items that have recently been allowed to as legitimate and eligible for foreign exchange is really an example of the kind of overlapping that will not take place under the presidency of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. A monetary instrument, which is foreign exchange, was used to deliver a fiscal objective, which was to protect domestic industry and to encourage local output. That is being rectified. The ban has been lifted, but on the fiscal side, there is a study under a very able Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee led by the very able Taiwo Oyedele is one of yours, and that's part of the partnership, in fact. So to make sure that industries that need to be protected are protected, to make sure that industries that actually need it to import have tariff regimes which allow them to import, and so on and so forth. So that's part of the correction. We are already in partnership with the private sector. Mr. President announced that he had that he has taken measures to deal with the illiquidity in the foreign exchange market, which we know is very problematic at this time. The market is illiquid. It's not functioning properly because there is not enough supply of foreign exchange, and there are various reasons for that. The solution that Mr. President has put on the table is, number one, he has signed an executive order that effectively legally allows, under forbearance, all the cash that is in the domestic economy to legally come into the formal money supply. People will be able to take the cash that they have and put it inside the system. Along with that, there's another executive order that allows the domestic issuance of foreign currency instruments so that they will have an incentive to provide that foreign exchange from whatever source into income-bearing instruments. The foreign exchange market will be simplified, it will be digitalized, and it will be reformed such that all legal and legitimate transactions will fall within the purview of the authorities and a formal market. Anything outside that will be illegal and will be a criminal offense and will be punished. And it will be robustly followed up.
So when people say they are concerned, they are worried, they are this thing, I think the time to do that, quite frankly, has gone. It has gone. The time when we're rebuilding is not the time for you to be running anyway. It's really not. There are more difficult decisions to be made, no question about it. But the two very difficult decisions, painful, they've been taken, and now it is a question of managing things till we get to where we really want to get to. And that's where we really want to get to is a place where we have a foreign exchange market that is fit for purpose.
Well, public buildings and buildings under construction in Nigeria are receiving attention in a bid to redefine safety insurance solutions to avert losses as a result of incidences of building collapse. This takes center stage at the National Insurance Conference with an objective to redefine the sector for economic development.
Broaden insurance product offerings and improve effectiveness of distribution channels. Enhance digitization of the insurance industry. Deepen the industry's talent pool and capacities. And support Nigerian economic transformation and sustainability agenda.
It provides a safety net for business in the economy as it indemnifies losses and brings individuals and businesses back to the position they were prior to the occurrence of losses.
On the suggest the insurance sector capitalization should move to 1 billion naira.
We need to improve penetration rate in insurance penetration, so to say, in Nigeria. Nigeria's economy is large. It's larger than the countries I've mentioned. But we are still doing a lot of physical deployment.
NICOM boss explained that the sector had witnessed significant growth, with premium income increasing at an average rate of 13.5%, reaching 726.2 billion naira from 282 billion naira. The conversation at the conference also centered on recapitalization of insurance companies, need to improve insurance penetration and talent development, as well as continued deployment of technology in insurance services and delivery. An industry strategic roadmap was unveiled that will serve as guide for the development of the insurance sector. Now, the Nigerian equities market began the first weekday of trade in negative territory as the all-share index closed trading for the day at 66,000 basis points. At the end of Monday's trading session, 314.6 million volumes of shares valued at 4.3 billion naira exchanged hands in 6,133 deals. Market capitalization stood at 36.7 trillion naira. Next is global market, and Ineka is standing by.
Hello and welcome to the global market segment. Asia-Pacific markets rebounded and erased their losses as investors assess private surveys of business activity from Japan and Australia, as well as the October Producer Price Index from South Korea. Now, Japan's Nikkei 225 climbed 0.2%. The Shanghai Composite also rose 0.78%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index declined 0.76%. European markets opened tentatively higher Tuesday, with investors likely keeping an eye on the latest business activity data out of the Eurozone. The DAX in Germany opened 0.08%, FTSE 0.07% down, and the French CAC is up 0.26%. And the U.S. stock futures rose slightly early Tuesday morning as investors focused on the upcoming slate of earnings report from major technology companies. The Dow Jones Industrial Average ticked up 83 points, S&P 500 rose 0.4%, and the Nasdaq Composite is down 0.66%. Now, early figures from African markets this Tuesday point to a mixed open, with South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 gaining 0.72%, while Namibia's overall index is taken down 0.04%. And that's Global Market Review for this Tuesday morning. It's back to you, Musa.
Well, thank you, Neka. This is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Business Express returns Wednesday at 3 p.m. Thanks for watching.
Information is